What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your $600 second stimulus check update and your $2,000 third stimulus check update. We have brand new breaking news on several different pieces of items today. Number one being an actual bill in the House and the Senate on a federal minimum wage for $15 an hour. This is different than the executive order. We're going to go over the brand new details of this. We're also going to hear from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the next stimulus package and President Biden. We got a lot. As I've been telling you guys, there's just literally breaking news coming out every day, every single day on executive orders, on foreclosure bans, eviction bans, Social Security increases, student loan forgiveness, and now federal minimum wage increases. It's a little bit controversial. Some people are for it, some people are against it. But either way, I'm going to give you guys the latest updates on it. But if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates. We also have mortgage and rental assistance expected to come out very soon, which basically could pay your rent for several different months. Money's going out to all 50 states and territories. So make sure to subscribe down below. Click the bell icon so you get notifications on new videos. We do have another video coming out tonight at 11 p.m. So honestly, there's just so much videos, so much news coming out lately. Just expect an 11 p.m. Eastern time video for a while. Remember, new videos come out every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., 8 p.m., and now 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And give this video a like, and let's jump right into it. Big breaking news today in both the House and the Senate. A bill has been introduced in both of them by the Democrats to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour. Now, this is different than the presidential executive order. Remember, we've already seen over 30 presidential executive orders on all different things, stimulus and non-stimulus, and one of them was basically to raise the federal minimum wage on federal businesses, federal government businesses, and federal contractors. Anything that has to do with the federal government was raised to $15 an hour through a presidential executive order. That is different than this because that's basically only for federal businesses, federal agencies, federal contractors. Joe Biden could do that through a presidential executive order, but he can't do it for the federal minimum wage on the state level because that has to be done through an actual bill through Congress, as far as we think. So remember, executive orders are not a clear-cut science. There's so many gray areas about executive orders. One day you'll hear that the president can't do an executive order, and then literally the next day, President Donald Trump did an executive order for $300 per week unemployment checks, stimulus checks for the unemployed for $300 per week. So executive orders are a very, very gray area. I've looked into this extensively, and you'll see a law scholar on this side who says the president can't do that. And then you'll literally the next day hear another law scholar, one from Harvard and one from Stanford, and he'll say he can do that. So remember, executive orders can happen pretty much any time. We're getting them coming in every single day. And honestly, I personally think that executive orders are kind of almost endless possibility. Not endless, but you know what I'm saying here. There's a lot of possibilities with executive orders like student loan forgiveness. Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, says it can be done with just an executive order. Elizabeth Warren says that Social Security could possibly be increased by the $200 per month on Social Security through executive orders. So we have a lot coming out, but this is different than the $15 federal minimum wage executive order. Let me show you some details so it kind of clears up some very, very important details. Okay, here we go. This is called the Raise the Wage Act of 2021, gradually increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour by 2025, okay? So this is a gradual increase. This is on the federal level, okay? So this affects like about half of the United States that is at the minimum wage, and probably almost all of the United States, about 90% of the state minimum wages are below $15 an hour. There's a few states that are at 15 or have passed bills to be at 15 in the next upcoming years. So this bill says, as a result, millions of our nation's workers, included many of our celebrated essential workers, are working full-time jobs but are struggling to make ends meet. 1 in 9 U.S. workers is paid wages that leave them in poverty, even when working full time and year round. It's also important to note that if you make slightly above $15 an hour, this will probably lead to a higher wage for you because let's fast forward a few years. These are going to go in stages. I'll show you how it's going to work here in a second. But let's just say we've officially got to $15 an hour minimum wage. And let's say you're, I don't know, I'm just going to pick a profession here. You're a paramedic, okay? And you were making, and again, I'm just throwing numbers out here. I'm not saying that I don't even know what they make, okay? But let's just say they used to make $15 an hour, but minimum wage was $7.25, okay? So you were making double the minimum wage. Well, if you're making $15 an hour or $16 an hour, $17 an hour, and now minimum wage moves up to 15, well, you're only making a dollar or two more than minimum wage or at minimum wage, you're probably going to get an increase because you're at a job that requires all this, certifications, maybe a college degree, all these different things. So it would make sense that over time or possibly immediately, just depending on the employer and the field you're in and stuff like that, that a lot of your wages, if you're close to minimum wage, um, at $15 an hour, you could be moved up to $20 an hour, or 21, or 18, or 25, because if you're significantly ahead of minimum wage now, which is 7.25, but you're around 15, when they raise it to 15, it would make sense that you probably wouldn't stay near minimum wage, if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense, and let me know if you think that'll happen across the United States. For example, if you were a paramedic and you were making $15 an hour, but minimum wage was 7.25, and now in a few years, minimum wage is now 15. I personally just doubt that a paramedic or somebody in a similar position, that's just an example, would still be making $15 an hour when the minimum wage goes to $15 an hour. My thoughts is you would probably move up to $20 an hour. Now, a lot of people who are against minimum wage increases say that this is going to increase the prices of almost everything. And well, that could very well be true. But regardless, this is in motion and this has not passed yet. This has to pass the House and the Senate. But let me give you the details. Okay, the Raise the Wage Act of 2020 would gradually raise the federal minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 by 2025 and index future increases in the federal minimum wage to median wage growth to ensure the value of minimum wage does not once again erode over time. Guaranteed tipped workers are paid at least the full federal minimum wage by phasing out the sub minimum wage for tipped workers, such as if you work in a restaurant, which will ensure decent, consistent pay without eliminating tips. And it will guarantee like you're a teen worker, you're 17 years old, are paid at least the full federal minimum wage by phasing out the rarely used sub minimum wage for youth workers and end sub minimum wage certificates for workers with disabilities to provide opportunities for workers with disabilities to be completely employed and participate more fully in their communities. They estimate that this would increase wages for nearly 32 million workers and probably a lot more of people that are maybe close to $15 an hour now, like I said, because of basically we'll call this minimum wage inflation. If you're making $15 an hour now, it would stand to reason that when they raise the minimum wage to 15, if you're in a profession that should be above minimum wage, it would probably make sense that you will be increased because of this. Once fully phased in, this translates into an annual pay raise increase of about $3,300 for the average affected year-round worker. They also say that a report by the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says that this would lift 1.3 million Americans out of poverty and 600,000 children and would increase pay for roughly 6 in 10 working families whose total family income is below the poverty line. So here, as you can see right here, is the stages of which this is going to go up. So when they pass this bill, it appears that the minimum wage will instantly go up to $9.50 across the United States on the federal level. If your state level is higher than this, then obviously the states supersede this, but they cannot go lower than the federal minimum wage. So the federal minimum wage, upon passing this bill, would be $9.50 and would go up every single year. So in 2022, it would go to $11. In 2023, it would go to $12.50. In 2024, it would go to 14, and in 2025, it would go to 15. And then after that, it would follow an index to median wages, which will be interesting to see how that works. Of course, at this point, that is about more than 5 years away at this point. Also, it's interesting to see that if you're a tipped worker, such as you work at a restaurant and you get tips, that you will be increasing also. And it looks like you will be catching up to the federal minimum wage. So, as you can see here, it goes up by about $2 per year. But when we get close to 2025, when the federal minimum wage is 15, you're at 12.95. We'll round that to 13. So you're only $2 behind, plus you would get tips. The next year, you would basically be at $15 an hour by 2026. So you'd be making $15 an hour or $14.95 plus tips. And then as you can see here in 2027, that it would be equal to standard minimum wage. So by 2027, this bill looks to phase out tipped wages. So if you work at a restaurant and you're a server, I actually used to be a server at Perkins many, many years ago before I started my first internet business. I worked as a server at Perkins, a restaurant in Ohio, but I think they're a national chain. So they look to get rid of tipped wages. So if you are a restaurant server, I know this will take several years to phase in. You kind of catch up a little bit as the years go by. But by 2026 or 2027, you will no longer have a lower salary. So you will be making at least minimum wage, $15 an hour, plus tips, which is really good news if you work in a restaurant. If you're a restaurant server, you know that you're on your feet the entire day. You're running back and forth from the back of the kitchen and serving food, depending on on the restaurant, on how busy you are. But yeah, they will be phasing out the tipped wages. Youth wages for basically children under the age of 18. I personally started working at age 14. In fact, this will be interesting. I asked this in my Amazon FBA Facebook group called Amazon FBA Champs. Let me know when you started working. What age were you at? And what was the minimum wage at? I started working at age 14. I worked at an amusement park called Jogga Lake, which later turned into Six Flags, and later Cedar Point bought them out and bankrupted them. That was fun because now we can't go there anymore here in Ohio. But when I started working at age 14 at the amusement park, I was a park sweeper. And the next year I was in games. I worked at the games, which was really fun. I was 14 years old and minimum wage was $4.25, at least for a teenager. And that is what I made when I started working. So let me know when you started working, what age were you, and how much did you make? This will be a very interesting to read through the comments. So as you can see here, I may have to scroll down because my corner might be in the way, but youth wages here will also be equal to standard minimum wage. So eventually youth wages will have to be paid minimum wage. So if you have a 14-year-old son, a 15-year-old son, a 16-year-old son, eventually as this phase out happens, they will make minimum wage. So yeah, very, very interesting changes. Let me know your thoughts on that down below. Also, President Joe Biden gave a speech earlier. Let me show you at least the beginning of it.
You on where we are. Tomorrow, we're going to begin the briefings that occur on a regular basis with Mr. Zients and his team. So we're bringing back the pros to talk about COVID in an unvarnished way. Any questions you have, that's how we'll handle them because we're letting science speak again. And so I'd like to update you on the aggressive steps we're taking to meet our goal of administering 100 million COVID-19 vaccine shots within 100 days, and to ramp up the vaccine supply as fast as we can. This will be one of the most difficult operational challenges we've ever undertaken as a nation. I've said that before, but I must say it again because we're going to do everything we can to get it done. but a lot of things can go wrong along the way. And so, as I've said in the past, we want to give credit to everyone involved in this vaccine effort, and the prior administration and the science community and the medical sphere for getting the program. I didn't do it, I promise. For getting the program off the ground. And that credit is absolutely due. But it's also no secret that we have recently discovered in the final days of the transition, and it wasn't until the final days we got the kind of cooperation we needed, that once we arrived, the vaccine program is in worse shape than we anticipated or expected. A lot of you follow this, and nobody is, I mean this sincerely, the press is the smartest group of people in town. You hone this stuff down clearly. I think you found the same thing. Even before I took office, I announced a new vaccination strategy, which centers on federal leadership and execution for our whole country. And that's why I directed my COVID team to go to work immediately on how we could step up the vaccination effort and the vaccinations. I'm pleased to announce the first progress in that work today and on day 7 of my presidency. First, after review of the current vaccine supply and manufacturing plans, I can announce that we will increase overall weekly vaccination distributions to states, tribes, and territories from 8.6 million doses to a minimum of 10 million doses. Starting next week, that's an increase of 1.4 million doses per week. And you all know, if I may note parenthetically, you all know that the vaccines are distributed to states based on population. They're based on population. And so the smaller the state, the less vaccine, the bigger the state, the more they get. And so this is going to allow millions of more Americans to get vaccinated sooner than previously anticipated. We got a long way to go, though. The second thing, we're increasing the transparency with states, cities, and tribes and local partners when it comes to the vaccine supply. This is something we've heard over and over again from both Democrats and Republicans, state and local leaders, that they need a plan in order to they need to know what they have to plan on. They need to know what the order is going to be. Jeff had a meeting with the governors on Zoom and others, and I think we're getting this coordinated in a way that there's increased cooperation and confidence. But until now, we've had to guess how much vaccine to expect for the next week, and that's what the governors had to do. How much am I getting next week? This is unacceptable. The lives are at stake here. From this week forward, God willing, we'll ensure that states, tribes, and territories will now always have a reliable 3-week forecast on what the supply they're going to get. So they'll know 3 weeks ahead of time what's going to be there in the 3rd week.
All right, so yeah, he goes on there for a while. I'll go through the rest of the footage and see if there's anything else about stimulus there. But it's important to note that the bill on the $15 minimum wage used to be in the third stimulus check package. And it looks like, at least for the time being, they have taken it out of that and basically introduced it as standalone bills in the House and the Senate. So it's important to note that this is happening because they can do this with anything. They actually did this with multiple things on the executive orders. If you've been watching the show, you know that they've passed 30 plus executive orders. I'm not going to go over the list of them now. I'll be here for a while. But they're taking things out of this package to possibly make it more palatable to Republicans, or maybe make the bill smaller by passing things separately. So if the federal minimum wage has to be voted on here, I'll keep you updated on that. It won't be part of the stimulus package, the third one. They also could do this with the stimulus checks, and I personally think they should. I think they should take the stimulus checks out of there and just pass that right now, like they did with the Cash Act that got delayed by Mitch McConnell. So it'd be interesting to see if they do that, because they could do that, and then it makes it a smaller bill per se for the Republicans to swallow, because they could pass the stimulus checks on their own. Remember that stimulus check bill, the Cash Act, passed the House with bipartisan support. 44 Republicans voted yes on it, and 99% of Democrats voted yes on it. They could pass that with a standalone bill, get you your money faster, and pass it in the Senate with 10 Republicans. Now, we know that there was enough support before to pass that in the Senate, And that was when they needed 13 Republican votes to do that. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep taking things out of the package and passing them or introducing them as standalone bills. We also have heard that the Social Security increase will be a standalone bill. So we have a lot to look forward. Mortgage and rental assistance coming most likely this week. I will keep you updated as soon as the information comes out on that, how to claim it. As always, make sure you're subscribed down below. Click the bell icon so you get notifications. Click all notifications. And I will have another update for you guys on 11 p.m. I actually kind of have a lot more to cover, but I don't want to make this too long of a video. So I will see you guys at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check videos next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I have dozens of students that have replaced their 9-to-5 income, and I teach them how to do that. Click on one of those videos to watch them next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.